A white supremacist has tanked the global market and is also disrespecting our veterans yet again. This and more as we jump into the pit. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Social Pit Podcast. I'm the Ski, and this is for the week of April 7th, 2025. And as always, to date, 11 weeks into his presidency, Donald Trump has signed 111 executive orders. Now, most recently is Executive Order 14254, combating unfair practices in the live entertainment market. Now, last week, Donald Trump signed this executive order in the presence of one Detroit rocker, Kid Rock, aka Robert Ritchie. And in this executive order, Donald Trump writes, America's live concert and entertainment industry is the envy of the world. But it has become blighted by unscrupulous middlemen who sit at the intersection between artists and fans and impose outrageous fees while providing minimal value. Ticket scalpers use bots and other unfair means to acquire large quantities of face value tickets, then resell them at an enormous markup on the secondary market, price gouging consumers and depriving fans of the opportunity to see their favorite artists without incurring extraordinary expenses. By some reports, fans have paid as much as 70 times face value to obtain a ticket. When this occurs, the artists do not receive any profit. All profits go solely to the scalper and the ticket agency. He goes on to write, my administration is committed to making as accessible as possible the arts and entertainment that enriches American lives. This rent-seeking behaviors surrounding the ticketing industry are contrary to this goal. They are detrimental to consumers and capitalize on market distortions that must not be allowed to persist. In other words, Donald Trump is trying to fight capitalism. Now, the problem is that this issue is not a brand new issue. Those of you who remember back in the 1990s, the band Pearl Jam had filed lawsuits against a company called Ticketmaster. Now, in 1994, Pearl Jam filed a lawsuit against Ticketmaster claiming they had virtual monopoly on concert ticket distribution and that the company used its influence to prevent promoters from booking them because they opposed Ticketmaster's pricing and fees. The Justice Department opened an investigation into Ticketmaster's practices prompted by Pearl Jam's complaints. And there were other bands that supported Pearl Jam, such as Garth Brooks, Grateful Dead, R.E.M., Neil Young, and Aerosmith. Now, on May 30th, 1994, band members Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam had testified before Congress about the impact that it had on fans and artists. And with that, Pearl Jam had canceled the 1994 tour that they had already scheduled. Ticketmaster denied Pearl Jam's allegations and argued that their business practices were legitimate and competitive. Now, while the Justice Department's investigation didn't lead to any action against Ticketmaster, Pearl Jam's actions and subsequent media attention sparked a broader conversation about the power of ticketing companies and their impact on the live music industry. And since then, Ticketmaster has become part of what is now called Live Nation, and they continue to face scrutiny and criticism regarding the pricing fees and the market dominance with the ongoing legal challenges and investigations. Now, I, as a fan, have also seen the many outrageous ticket prices that these concerts have promoted. But from a fan's perspective, it is not really Ticketmaster or Live Nation that has exploited these ticket prices. In many situations, it is the venues, the arenas, and also the artists. Now, one artist in particular that I'd like to point out is Pink. in which her shows are very overpriced for what she does, namely the fact that she uses a lot of equipment for her acrobatic displays involving rigging, safety equipment, and gear that allow her to fly through the arena. And with that being said, many people are also reported to be employed by said entertainers in order to put on the best show that they can possibly offer. Another band such as Kiss, the legendary rockers, used a lot of pyrotechnics in their shows. But in some situations, such as legendary Michigan rocker Bob Seger, who didn't use a lot of theatrics in his shows, but basically went back to the roots of why he became a musician, and that was to sing to the fans. And let us also remind Kid Rock that he, at one time, was dancing around in the back of a moving Tesla truck while singing American Badass in a bull riding arena. Now, on April 2nd, Donald Trump announced Liberation Day. Now, Liberation Day is often a public holiday that marks the liberation of a place, similar to Independence Day here in the United States. Now, by definition, liberation is a noun and is the movement seeking equal rights and status for a group, such as women's liberation. Many countries here in the world celebrate their own Liberation Day. Hong Kong celebrates Liberation Day as the last Monday in August, celebrated between 1945 and 1996, no longer as a holiday as of 1997 when England restored their independence to China. Now, the problem with Donald Trump's Liberation Day was that was the day that he imposed tariffs on the entire world with the exception of two countries. And those two countries is Russia and North Korea. Now, to subsidize those two missing tariffs, Donald Trump imposed tariffs on the Heard and McDonald Islands in the Antarctic region of the world. And here is where Donald Trump's cognitive ability goes awry. Donald Trump thinks that the Batman character, the Penguin, is the leader of these islands because there is the thing called the Emperor Penguin there. That is right. These two islands in the Antarctic region of the world is uninhabited by human beings and populated by penguins. Let us remember the time that Donald Trump told the story of where he spoke to an engineer about a floating electric boat. Where Donald Trump asked the question, what if the boat sank? And thinking that that was going to electrify shark-infested waters, where he was going to jump the shark. Now, I am not a highly educated person. I am an educated person. But even at the age of 13 years of age, I understood the physics of buoyancy when it comes to boats. I specifically grew up on a pontoon boat in which there are two metal tubes on the bottom of the boat that contain air and allow this 700-pound vehicle to float on water. And the reason why I mention this is because Donald Trump claims to be the economic genius that he is and feels that his tariffs on the entire world will bring unification to the people, will lower consumer costs here in America. And on Thursday and Friday after Liberation Day, we saw the stock market drop 2,200 points in just the 2 days of trading. That is equivalent to $6.6 trillion in value of our Dow Jones Industrial Average. The last time the Dow Jones saw that much of a loss was on March 12th, 2020, in which $4.4 trillion in stock market value evaporated in the 2 days leading into the COVID pandemic. And let us remember that Donald Trump, the President of the United States at that time, mismanaged the COVID pandemic and allowed more than 1 million people here in the United States to die from the coronavirus. And Donald Trump's response to this catastrophe that he is implementing here on the world, he decides to go meet with the Saudis at his Mar-a-Lago golf course for a live tournament. While Donald Trump was at his residence down in Florida, wining and dining the Saudis with a $1 million a plate dinner, 4 of our fallen soldiers were returned home from a training accident in Lithuania. Once again, Donald Trump did not go to Dover Air Force Base to receive the fallen. Once again, Donald Trump said, "Fuck our veterans." It is no surprise as to why Donald Trump picked a Jaffer to be the leader of the Department of Defense and a corporal to be his vice president. 2 highly inexperienced people to serve in our nation's top positions within our military. And let us not forget, Donald Trump himself is a draft dodger from the Vietnam War, where he got 4 deferments for education and then the 5th deferment for bone spurs. And President Bone Spurs continues each and every week to go to his golf course and play at $3.3 million of taxpayer dollars each weekend. Donald Trump has been in office for 11 weeks now and has already made 10 trips to his golf courses. And while we were talking about live entertainment, let us not forget that Donald Trump, at $15 million of taxpayers' dollars wasted, went to the Super Bowl, being the first president to turn the Super Bowl into a cluster, followed by with the misuse of the Daytona 500 at $15 million apiece too, to drive around the track. Air Force One doing a flyover during the national anthem is one thing. That is honoring and respecting our nation. But for the sitting president to take his motorcade around the track at Daytona 500 has never been done by any other president that is currently sitting in that White House. I do recall President George W. Bush coming to Omaha for College World Series, but this was in fact after he was no longer president of the United States. And recently we saw President Barack Obama attending a basketball game. Once again, not a sitting president. But what else do we expect from a child predator with a severe ego problem manipulating the poorly educated? What else do we expect from a draft dodger who calls our fallen soldiers losers and suckers? And what else do we say about a man who tells a combat veteran who was wounded in the line of duty not to sing the national anthem at any event because people don't want to see him? Is it people, or is it because Donald Trump did not want to see them? Donald Trump is very materialistic. This is a man who has a golden escalator at his residence that he came down to announce his presidency in 2015. And Donald Trump also boasts about having a golden toilet. And let us not forget that his 3 wives were all models. Donald Trump, being the Big Mac eating tub of lard that he is, very narcissistic, very disrespectful to our national heroes, to our country, to the world on this global de-escalation of civility that he is trying to impose on us. Now, on Saturday, April 5th, many cities across the nation, upwards of 1,100 cities, organized protests called Hands Off 2025. This protest featured such high-profile people that brought them out in attendance, including Congressman Jamie Raskin. And in many cities, upwards of thousands of people showed up in attendance to protest Donald Trump and Elon Musk's Doge. In DC and New York alone, there were well over 100,000 in attendance at each protest. Some cities like Omaha, Nebraska, and Raleigh, North Carolina saw upwards of 2,000 people. And there were many other big cities such as Dallas, Detroit, Miami that saw upwards of 45,000 people in attendance. I too even went down to check out the protest here in Omaha, Nebraska, and saw almost 2,000 people myself driving down those streets. And here in Omaha, I did see one Trump supporter at this rally waving his Trump flag. To the MAGA community, this was a protest. What happened on January 6th was not a protest, but a defiance of law, an attack on our Constitution, an attack on our democracy, an attack that killed people, and was an attack on the foundation of our society. Hopefully, this protest will send the right message to the right people that we do not want Donald Trump in office. We do not want J.D. Vance in office. And we do not want a South African national anywhere near our government to destroy it from the top on down. This is a message to those who think that our government is for sale. It is not. We, the people, have our Constitution. We have our elected leaders. And those few elected leaders from regions that are very hateful, very racist, very misogynistic, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, we, the people, do not want you anywhere near our Constitution for you to destroy. We, the people, want you gone from our government. And we, the people, will do what we can to preserve our democracy, to preserve our freedoms, to preserve our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time right here on the Social Pit Podcast. Have a day.
About to go down, going all out. This is right now, yeah. Together we rise. It's about time. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power.
In a league of our own, the fire never fades, still breaking the mold, no matter what it takes.